Good evening and welcome to Have I News for You at a fascinating time for the British nation, with only 4 weeks to go now until the long-awaited day, Ronnie Biggs' funeral. Elsewhere in the news this week, as the foot-and-mouth culling policy continues, government vets deny they've been affected by the excessive slaughter. In Texas, the new Toys R Us superstore opens for business. And there's an embarrassing moment when John Prescott forgets to remove the cover from his new swimming pool. On Ian Hislop's team is the star of the award-winning comedy series Trigger Happy TV, which the BBC are very happy to point out follows this programme on Channel 4 and is crap, Dom Joly. And with Paul Merton tonight, a journalist who recently declared the most positive role model for men now is the male stripper, which we can only pray he won't attempt to prove tonight, David Aaronovitch. Round one has all the hallmarks of an opening round, featuring, as it does, the first 4 questions. Ian and Dom. Shock news.
Could it be the election?
I think it is. Going to see the Queen. Oh, he's amongst his people.
The children of the future. Back on the streets. Following John Major's great example from the last election.
And that's the plane, the Lib Dem super plane. Battle plane.
It has a name, actually.
Led Zeppelin.
Is it Icarus?
Big Banana. What?
Did you say banana?
Big Banana is what it's called.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what their campaign bus is called, the Lib Dems. Obviously going for the under-6 vote there. So you mentioned the Children of the Future. Was that a reference to the song that the kids were singing?
Well, I thought it was fantastic. You saw Blair, announcing the election to a group of school children who were obviously very excited to meet the Prime Minister, but seemed to wonder why he was talking over their heads to someone behind them.
The children were essentially props. All the journalists were kept out of view, so it was just the kids in view. And then Blair delivered the speech to them about issues that they might be interested in, like negative equity.
Yeah.
Really big amongst school kids.
I think it's very important.
Talk about nothing else in the playground.
And he had a stained glass window behind him, didn't he?
Yes, which picked out the colours nicely on his white shirt.
Yeah.
So Tony could stand there.
And what's his message been?
It was a very religious one, of vote for me.
Vote for me, I'm God.
He did sing another hymn, which was I am the Lord of Wind and Flame. You got it half right.
And as soon as the lights were off, he dropped the book and left. He sang while the cameras were there. It was just an amazing piece of drivel, really.
TV.
Yeah. And what was bad about the date that he's suggested, for the Queen, at least?
She busy?
She's
washing her hair.
No, the other thing she's
washing her hair. Prince Charles, she's washing him.
Is there a horse race?
Does she wash Prince Charles? He doesn't dress himself, does he?
I'll check it out and let you know.
OK. Who will he be asking?
I'll phone the palace.
Right.
They've got spokesmen.
Right, are you going to do that now, or...?
I haven't got a phone.
I've got...
No, please. OK. Yes, the state...
What's the Queen doing?
The state opening of Parliament will now fall on the second day of Ascot.
Oh, let's get our priorities right.
And what about Hague? What's he been up to? Because we've got to look for balance now.
Yeah, the really sickening thing about Blair...
I want to mention Hague.
Right, OK, go ahead.
Hague.
But, I mean, that's all Blair's policy is. If anyone says, what do you think? He says, Hague. Yeah. Everyone goes, oh, God, all right, yeah.
This is the announcement, then, by Tony Blair that the general election will be held on June the 7th. Immediately afterwards, William Hague set off on a whistle-stop tour of all winnable seats, starting with Watford, then Taunton, then... then home for tea. The campaign officially started on Tuesday when Mr Blair went to Buckingham Palace and spent 20 minutes with the Queen before reluctantly leaving, saying, I'll put you down as a maybe, then. In the interest of political balance, we're obliged to mention what Liberal Democrat leader Charles Kennedy has been up to, so if anyone has any news, please feel free to write and let us know. Paul and David, your latest release?
Yeah, this is the Pope's visit to Syria and Greece. Yep. There he is, there's the Pope from a plane landing at Damascus airport. The other possibility is that was Ronnie Biggs.
Right. What's he been up to then this week?
Well, he's done a deal with the Sun to fly him back to Rio so his family can get a bit of money before he dies.
Well, yes, that's the cynical view.
Well, he's a rather cynical man, don't you think?
And it was the Sun, yes, that is responsible for bringing him
They finally
over.
brought him to justice,
Yeah.
as they put
which
it.
is a big thing they're doing. Next week, Slobodan Milosevic.
Yes, and how did the Daily Star describe the Sun this week?
Shocking.
A great paper.
Oddly not, no, a down-market newspaper is how they put it. This was in an edition which had this as the front cover.
Yeah, fair enough.
Who else has helped Ronnie and the Sun?
Robin Cook.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Get him a passport for one day.
Well, we gave the Hindujas a passport, so Ronnie Biggs is fair enough.
Yes, and without contributing to the Millennium Dome. And were you aware of what Ronnie's been doing over in Rio in recent weeks? Advertising women's underwear. We can have a look at the photo shoot.
Oh, dear.
Oh, well, he's wrapped in a Union Jack. Oh. Is he having a stroke in that one, or...?
This is the ageing great train robber Ronnie Biggs, returning to Britain, having escaped in 1965 after serving 15 months in prison. Biggs is hoping that his remaining sentence will be substantially reduced from the current 28 years to life. The Sun, spinning the story out for all it was worth, has already suggested a film based on Biggs' return to Britain, seeking the perfect physical match. They said it could star Kirk Douglas as the ailing robber, or if he's not available, Thora Hird. Ian and Dom, homespun pun for you, Ginger Wedman.
Well, this has to be Mr. Evans, I think, marrying Billy Piper in Las Vegas.
I know this because of the desperation of the Daily Telegraph. I mean, all the newspapers at the moment are saying, you know, vote Blair, except the Telegraph, which wants to say vote Haig, but, you know, they've got to sell papers. So they put an enormous picture of Chris Evans marrying Billy Piper, front page of the Telegraph, enormous.
With a headline saying there are worse things than William Hague.
You wonder what the vows were, really, at some stage. I mean, there must have been some sort of vow about appearing in a paper every single day, one or two, vowing to release singles on particularly prominent dates in the wedding
For the rest of their
for the rest of their wedded week. I don't know. I mean, I kind of see his attraction. I don't really see what she's getting out of it, particularly. You know.
Well, she got a Ferrari out of it.
Yeah, but she can't drive.
That's true. But Ferrari's very good to learn on, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Traditionally.
Learn on?
Yes.
Learn on a car?
Did you learn on a Ferrari?
I didn't, no.
What car did you learn on?
I learned on a Fiat.
Have we gone into Top Gear?
Sadly, no. I think we found neutral.
So, the wedding outfits, then. Did you notice what she was wearing?
A blank cheque?
Very little.
She was wearing a sarong with pink and green flip-flops.
Very nice. Very Beckham.
So, what's Billy's middle name?
Tone deaf? I don't know.
Is it pied?
It's even more
Is it
extraordinary
bag?
than that. It's not Bag Piper, no.
Henry.
It is a boy's name.
Lone.
Chris.
Slightly closer to...
Angus.
No. We'll get there in the end if you keep going round this way.
David.
Paul.
Paul is the right
Paul.
answer, yes.
Paul?
And what does Paul mean?
I think it means poor, shy. Does it mean shy?
It means small. Who would have thought?
Not in stature, though, eh?
No, heaven forbid. Yes, this is the wedding of Billy Piper and Chris Evans in a surprise ceremony designed to wrong-foot the British media, as reported in every national newspaper. According to the Daily Star, Billy appeared to have put on a bit of weight, but denied rumours that she's pregnant, so Chris remains the only one with child. After news of the wedding was leaked, messages of congratulation flooded in from the church manager Greg Smith. I hope they'll be very happy together. From Virgin Radio, we wish Billy and Chris every happiness. And from Evan's ex-wife, Carol McGiffin, who also added her sentiments. Paul and David, your extraordinary claim. Private eye in Poodle Snatch.
Strange place to hide. Is this a sad custody story? Some chap who's estranged from his wife, they're fighting about who gets the dog, and he sends a private eye to find out where the dog is. She said about him, the wife, he threatened to strangle me and the dog, to which he replied, I wouldn't touch that dog.
Yes, and what is the dog?
It's a poodle. Says it there, look.
It's a poodle-like dog. It's not actually a poodle.
It does impressions.
Is it a Shih Tzu?
No, it is a dog. It's a Bichon Frise.
Have you got a picture of it?
We have, yes.
Oh, look at that.
This isn't actually Sophie, which is the name of the dog in question, but this is one that's like Sophie. Have you ever dressed up as a dog, Dom?
Not me.
Right.
Occasionally, yes.
You dressed up as a bear, didn't you? What was that to...
I have been a bear. I did actually stand at the last election as Ted Bear. I stood in Kensington, Chelsea against Alan Clark, and we came fourth, which means that my party, the Teddy Bear Alliance, is now the fourth most powerful political presence in Kensington, Chelsea.
What were your policies?
Say no to fleas was a very big one.
This is then, yes, the custody battle over Sophie, the Bichon Frise. Frank and Andrea Hannon were their names. They both claimed ownership over the dog and were in court this week after Mr. Hannon hired a private detective to track his wife down so he could snatch the dog back. According to one expert, Bichon Frise are a small poodle-like dog, very popular due to their size, especially in Korea, where they fit neatly into the microwave. So, at the end of that round, according to the latest poll, both sides are already faring better than Charles Kennedy, having as they do 4 points. Two this week salutes 4 glorious years of New Labour achievements and highlights why an even bigger election victory for Tony Blair this time is not only inevitable but also inexplicable. So, fingers to your buzzers. Question 1, who said this and about what? They may not revolutionise your life, but they can make Britain better. Paul and David?
We don't know.
Ian and Dom?
We don't know either.
Shall I give you a clue?
Okay. Yeah, go on.
He's the Prime Minister of this country.
Jacques Chirac.
It's going to be a tough one this round, I can feel it. Tony Blair's his name. At the last election, he said it about Labour's 5 election pledges. How many have been achieved? Paul and David?
3.
Is the right answer. Next, how does Mr. Blair account for the number of pledges that haven't been achieved? Paul and David?
By the fact that they haven't had 5 years, they've only had 4.
There's the right answer. Very good. The pledges were only supposed to be honoured over a 5-year period.
Well, whose fault is that? He called the election.
William Hague's fault. If it hadn't been for opposition in the House of Lords, they'd have all been fulfilled within 4 years instead of the 5 they originally promised.
Yes.
Right.
Do you see?
You're a Tory, aren't you?
You're a communist, aren't you?
A very, very right-wing communist.
Right, OK.
So where does that leave you?
Lib Dem, I think, doesn't it? According to Lord Irvine, what might have fallen down almost as soon as it was put up? Paul and David?
Anne Widdecombe's drawers.
His wallpaper.
Yeah.
A certain kind of wallpaper.
The cheap wallpaper that he didn't use.
B&Q wallpaper.
That is correct, yes, the ordinary wallpaper, as opposed to the hand-printed double flock paper chosen by Lord Irvine, which cost taxpayers £60,000. How did one interior designer describe the colour scheme in Lord Irvine's office?
Like a tart's boudoir.
Like an Indian restaurant.
Not like an Indian restaurant either.
Like a tart's Indian restaurant.
No. Dull, muddy, boring and ostentatious. What incident last year led Tony Blair to admit he was terrified?
Facing the WI.
It was the warm reception he received from the Women's Institute conference at Wembley.
I've spent a long time working on the National Health Service.
Slow hand clapping started.
Not political. Definitely why. Not
This is the most terrifying audience I've ever seen in my life.
That's because he only ever goes on Richard and Judy and Sooty.
That's right.
To what was Tony Blair referring in 1997 when he admitted it hasn't been handled well, it shouldn't have come out in dribs and drabs? David?
It's the Bernie Ecclestone thing.
Right.
He gave £1 million to the Labour Party and the Labour Party mysteriously agreed that Formula One would be exempted from the
ban on
advertising for cigarettes, and then gave him his £1 million back. But unfortunately, this all came out in little bits because the press was incredibly irresponsible about it. And if only it had been published all at once, Mr. Blair wouldn't have been in such deep shit.
And how much did the Conservatives claim that Eccleston previously donated to them? Paul and David.
£2 million. 15 quid. 85 pence. 4,600.
Higher, higher.
4,600.
£8 million is the lowest estimate. Although we should point out that Eccleston actually denies giving the money to the Tories. And in the interest of balance, how much did he give to the Lib Dems?
Nothing.
That's right, yes, he's not quite that stupid, no.
Well, which in the context of their finances was quite a lot.
And finally, only 3 months after leaving Northern Ireland, Mo Mowlam had her armed bodyguards withdrawn. How long were some of her predecessors allowed to keep theirs?
Still are.
For life.
For life.
Yeah.
Yes, the longest so far is about 27 years, that's Lord Mason. But rest assured, Mo Mowlam is more than capable of dealing with anyone foolish enough to target her. Which, happy memories mean at the end of this brief term, the two teams are both at 1, level as they are on 10.
And there's a woman in the front row knitting. It's not that the programme's dull.
When Broom goes out tomorrow, will he be wearing the jumper?
I think she's just waiting for someone to be beheaded. Round 3 is what we call the odd one out round, 1 per team this week, and Paul and David get what we call the first question. Michael Portillo, Chris Smith, Archie Norman and Anne Widdecombe.
Michael Portillo did have gay relationships when he was young.
Homosexual experiences.
Homosexual experiences.
We don't know if that was with a homosexual, but he had experiences that were of a homosexual nature.
Right.
With whoever.
With whoever, yeah.
Chris Smith did also, and hopefully still does. So we're choosing between the other two here.
We don't know if Anne Widdecombe did, because it's impossible to say what sex she actually is. Nobody actually knows. Nobody knows.
She did write a book called The Clematis Tree, and clematis sounds incredibly like...
It wasn't clematis, it was clematis.
Clematis. You think that's better,
making
do
his
you?
point.
Oh, he's making a point. So
Right,
now
okay,
I've read that book. It's rather good.
Yeah.
So Archie Norman is a bit of a gay name, isn't it? It's the sort of name
It's
round
two
about
men's names, isn't it? Two men together, yeah, well... Archie and Norman.
So, no, another possibility. Widdecombe's definitely a Catholic. Portillo must have been brought up in Catholicism.
Spanish.
It wouldn't at all surprise me if Archie Norman was a Catholic, but Chris Smith is actually an ordained Anglican vicar.
Is an excellent answer and also completely wrong.
What's she holding up there, Anne Widdecombe? Some starched item of underwear, perhaps?
Could be almost anything. You read her book, didn't you? Yes, you quite liked it.
Yeah, I thought it was very good.
Clematis Tree.
No, clematis, I think.
Right.
It's a flower.
You said Widdecombe's bleak meditation on suffering is a pleasure to read.
Yeah.
Have you been drinking that night?
What I actually said was, compared to a novel by Edwina Currie, Anne Widdecombe's bleak meditation is a pleasure to read. It was a comparative.
Right. Do you know what Edwina said about Anne Widdecombe? She said, sometimes something mineral entered her body and something animal came out.
Like Perrier and a horse. What's the clue?
Give us a clue.
It's something you might expect of Gordon Brown.
He's only got one eye. And he's Scottish. Too mean to have two eyes. Terrible, isn't it? Yeah.
It's about...
He had the option, the same as everybody else. I don't think I'll bother with that, thank you very much.
We'll get letters.
At least I'll be able to read them properly. I don't know. Chris Smith has got one out.
No, I'm going to give this
We've picked everybody else, haven't we? It must be Archie Norman.
It is
Archie Norman's
It is Archie Norman.
He runs a supermarket.
But the reason is that they all own a ministerial red box, which they're all entitled to, apart from Archie Norman, who's not entitled to, but he's had his own box made anyway.
So Anne Widdecombe's got a red box, that's what you're saying? Any dirty jokers in the mind of the audience? I'm simply repeating what you said.
Yes. William Hague appointed ex-Asda chairman Archie Norman to the Shadow Cabinet after only 2 years as an MP, although Norman hopes to return the favour, offering Hague a job collecting trolleys after the election. Ian and Dom, William Hague, Alvin Stardust, Simba and the Wombles.
Is this public information? Wombles were obviously keen on picking up litter. Alvin Stardust did a Green Cross code thing, crossing the road, saying to these young children, you should cross the road properly.
Is that Simba from The Lion King?
From The Lion King.
Is it that William Hague is the only person who's given out public information that no one is interested in?
Is Mike Batt involved in this?
Oh. Would you like to explain?
Yeah, Mike Batt, who made the music for the Wombles, has written the new Tory anthem Heartland, and he may have done one of the songs for The Lion King.
I bet he's probably
co-written it.
He's written something for Alvin Stardust. I think The Lion King might be the odd one out.
Yeah, I don't think he's written anything for The Lion King.
Okay, so
it's rather good.
So Simba's the odd one out because Mike Batt didn't mess that up.
Is the right answer.
Yeah.
Very good. And, of course, the Wombles, yes, Mike Batt famously wrote for. Who can name the original 7 of
Bulgaria,
the Wombles? Good.
Orinoco,
Yeah.
Madame Chalet,
The Republic of Kazakhstan.
Bungo.
Tobermory.
Very good.
Toblerone.
I know because it's the first album I bought.
Is that true?
It is very true.
What was it called?
The Wombles.
How did they come up with that title?
I don't know, it's just crazy.
Good marketing.
It was just before punk, so...
That's what caused punk.
It is.
And do you know who the new lot are? 3 new Wombles been added to the ITV series.
Sporty Womble.
Telly Womble.
There's Stepney, who's inner city Womble on exchange.
Urban Womble.
Urban Womble. Alderney, who's a girl Womble, concerned with water pollution. And there's Shanxi, who's a Chinese girl Womble who collects rare plants.
Wimbledon's really changed, hasn't it?
In the 70s, the Wombles picked up 4 gold discs, and not for their music, they were just lying around Wimbledon Common. One of Mike Batt's many commissions was to write Germany's 1998 World Cup song, which roughly translates into English as "Football's coming home my arse." Which rapid decomposition means at the end of this dirge, it's Ian and Dom who need a minor miracle. Behind us they are 12-10. So the margin of just 2 points renders this final missing words round virtually exciting. A half-hidden display of lesser-spotted headlines, including many or not from this week's guest publication, the hugely informative Bison World. A particular favourite with American cattle ranchers or Cockney plumbers. So, to your marks for Ich bin ein what?
German.
9.
Bison.
It is from Bison World.
Bison farmer.
Almost. Bison rancher, yes, is the right answer. Ich bin ein Bison. This is a bison expert who lived in Germany for 6 months.
Yeah.
Next, Florida passes sentence on notorious what?
Bison.
Criminal.
No, it's not quite. It's a slightly more oblique. Tortoise, you say.
Chad.
Chad is the right answer. Chad's very good. This harks back to the American election, of course, when the inability to fill in a simple form correctly led to George Bush running as president. Next, Girl Scouts earn what?
Brownie points.
Bison time.
Oh, bison badges.
Bison badge is the right answer.
Oh, well done.
Yeah. That's for shooting them with an arrow, skinning them and making a tippee. That's quite a tough
Tippy.
Tippee.
A tapee with clematis all round it.
Yeah.
Yes. Next, there's a hole in what?
Gibraltar.
My shoe.
My bison.
President Kennedy.
Probably accurate, but not the right answer. The mall is, in fact, what there is a hole in. Next, Richard and Judy poached what?
In cheap sherry.
From ITV or for Channel 4?
By Channel 4, yes, is the right answer. Of course, where they're set to front a nighttime topical show reacting to news events. That'll never work.
No.
Next, Bob Pickering's what?
Affair with bison goes wrong. Wife finds out about bison.
It is from Bison World.
That's why I keep saying bison.
He is a bison. Bob Pickering is a bison.
He's not
Champion bison.
Marries bison.
Kills bison.
Bob Pickering's Bison World. Bison Corner with
Gives
Bob
birth
Pickering.
to bison.
Prize winning. Something to do with winning a bison contest.
Yeah, he's won a bison and a raffle.
Loses bison.
Bison Bookshelf is, in fact, the answer. This is the part of Bison's World entitled Bisonabilia. And finally, study finds bison healthier than what?
Bob Pickering.
Ted Heath.
Bob Pickering, he's not been feeling well, he's got a cough.
Neither of these things.
Usual.
Soy is quite simply the answer.
What? Healthier than soy?
This is according to Dr. Todd Runstad.
Yeah, he's been discredited. He knows nothing, don't
He's been superseded by Bob Pickering.
Bob Pickering's my friend.
Which, criminal waste means that at the end of this sentence, this week's Ronnie Biggs are Ian and Dom with 13, so this week's Mr. Biggs are Paul and David with 15.
Well done.
So, the best of luck to our winners, the best of wombles to our losers. But you've already got it,
I've got
haven't you?
that one,
Yeah. But before we let them completely off the hook, the bloodletting that accompanies our caption competition.
Bob Pickering on holiday, on yachting holiday, spears underwater female trombonist.
Blood.
It's not a trombone.
I know, and he's not a spear, he's not Bob Pickering, he's not Bones.
I was just getting round to the I'm tuba diving joke.
That's terrible.
Have you got round to it now?
No, I thought I wouldn't bother.
Right, good. Somewhere in the middle of the London Philharmonic Orchestra, there's a bloke trying to get a tune out of a scuba diving kit.
On which astute note, we say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and Dom Joly, Paul Merton and David Aaronovitch. And I leave you with news that Martin McGuinness's gardener regrets trying to plant some root vegetables without permission. In Cumbria, police warn motorists about picking up a dangerous group of hitchhikers. After several years out of the public eye, Virginia Bottom League gears up to hit the campaign trail. And in London, the tension is unbearable as election fever sweeps the nation. Good night.
And if your sides are still intact, beware. More acerbic jousting from Messrs Hislop and Merton is on the way in just a few moments. Here on the UK TV documentary.